So last time we built a swimming pool and it was a lot of work. We had to manually build 9 blocks of water. Well, let me tell you, there's a faster way. There's actually a new function called setBlocks with an S at the end that will create multiple blocks at a time for us. In fact, what it creates is something called a cuboid. Alright, so let's learn more about how to build quickly with this function, the setBlocks. As I said, it creates several blocks in the shape of a cuboid. And if you don't know what a cuboid is, it's just a 3D shape, like a 3D rectangle or a 3D square. And normally when we think of a cuboid, we define it in terms of the dimensions of the shape, like specifying the length, the width, and the height. That's how we normally define a cuboid. So, for example, if you look at this cuboid right here, we could say that this is the width of the cuboid. We could say that this is the height, and we could say that this is the length, right? But in Minecraft, using the setBlocks, the cuboid will be defined differently. So this function, the setBlocks function, needs actually as arguments not the height, the width, and the length of the cuboid, but 2 sets of coordinates. Basically, the first set is the first corner of the cuboid, so it could be, in our case, this point right here. And then it needs another set of coordinates to specify the opposite point, so it could be this point right there. And of course, we need a last argument that tells the function what kind of block to use, the block type. But we will talk about that later. And by defining these 2 points or these 2 sets of coordinates, we are implicitly saying or defining the dimensions, the width, the length, and the height of the cuboid. Okay, let's try to see this with a more concrete example. But first, I need to talk about, and once again, I have been talking about this for a while. I want to talk about how to position your player within the Minecraft world. And again, feel free to find the way that makes more sense to you, the way that makes you feel more comfortable. I'm going to show you my way, the way I feel comfortable, the way I understand this better. So in the past, I have been showing this graph, and this never changes. So for instance, to moving south means moving in the z-axis towards the positive z-axis. Going north is towards the negative z-axis, and so on. So this doesn't change. But what can change is how you position your player. And I've shown you earlier how to do that by pressing F3. You can see in the center of the screen the coordinate system. We will see that again in a moment. But the way I like to position my player to make things easier for me is like this, right? So where this is the positive x-axis, this is the positive y, and this is the positive z. So every time I want to build something with the setBlocks function, I always make sure to be standing this way. Okay, so having said that, how to define this cuboid? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the height, the width, and the length with some values. Oh, and something else. Actually saying that this is the length and this is the width is all up to me. It makes sense to consider this the height, but you could very well say that for you this is the width and for you this is the length. That's completely fine. But for me, it makes more sense to think of this as the width, this as the length, this as the height, and this is x is related to the x-axis for me, so width is related to the x-axis, length is related to the z-axis, and the height for me is related to the y-axis. Okay, so let's illustrate this and how to define the points based on how big you want your cuboid. So let's say this cuboid is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks. So the width is 9 blocks. Then the length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's 12 blocks. And then the height is 3 blocks. Okay. So we have our dimensions. I'm gonna just write it down here again. So the width is 9, the length, let me use lowercase l here. The length is 12, and the height is 3. All right, now let's say in my Minecraft world right now, I'm standing here at this point, and let's say this point is 103, something simple. Okay, so this will be the first set of coordinates that I will send as arguments to the set blocks function. Now, I know where I'm standing. I know I want a 9 by 12 by 3 cuboid, and all I need to do now, since I cannot directly use the dimensions with the set blocks function, all I need to do now is to define this point right here. Okay, and to define this point right here, all I need to do is x plus, so x, I will replace this with values later. This is the original x where I'm standing, plus the width of my cuboid. And again, it's the width because for me this is the width. If this was the length for you, then you would add the length there. That depends on how you see this thing, how you consider it, how you visualize it. So for me, the length goes along the x-axis. Sorry, the width goes along the x-axis. So this will be x plus width minus 1. Okay, and we will see y minus 1 later. Okay, the next coordinate y will be y plus height minus 1, and then z would be z plus length minus 1. Okay, so this will be my my second set of coordinates. Okay, so let's replace this with the actual values that we can calculate easily. So let's erase this. So this would be actually 1 plus 9 minus 1. So 1 plus 9 is 10, minus 1 is 9. Okay, the next one will be 100 plus 3 minus 1, so 102. And then the z would be 3 plus 12, that's 15, minus 1, 14. Okay, so now let's see if it's correct. So let's say I don't have the dimensions. Let's say I don't know the width, the length, and the height. I only know the 2 points, the first point where I'm standing and the opposite corner. So if I consider that where I currently am, I will be building 1 block. So let's go coordinate or axis by axis. So if I'm in X, I'm at 1, okay, and I will be building a block there. So my first block is at 1. The second block will be at 2, and then at 3 is the next one, then at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. By the time I get to here, to 9 in X, I have already placed 9 blocks, which is the width. Okay, now you do the same for Y. So you place 1 block at 100, 1 at 101, 1 at 102. That's 3 blocks. So the height is 3. And then for Z, you place 1 at 3, and then 1 at 4, and so on. and if you do the math, that gives you 12 blocks, right? It gives you 12 blocks. So this is how you compute it. So again, this is a starting point, right? Start, or where the player currently is, and this is the ending point. Ending point. And each coordinate here is just the original x, y, or z plus either the width, the height, and the length minus 1. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now let's go and code this. So I go back to Python, and I will create a completely new file here. I'll start from scratch. Okay, and then I'm gonna start with the basics. So I'm gonna start by connecting to Minecraft, right? So remember, connect to Minecraft from mcpi.minecraft, import Minecraft, then mc equals minecraft.create, and I'm gonna import the time because at some point I will want to pause this. All right, now next thing to do is get the player's current position. Okay, so mc.player.getTilePause gives me the position. Is an object that I assign to position, and from position, that variable, I extract the individual coordinates x, y, and z. Okay, so I have the position, and then what I will do is I will pause for 3 seconds, because I always when I run my program, I want to have enough time to go back to the game and see what actually happens. If I don't do that, then things will happen too fast and I might miss the whole point. And then what I want to do next is I want to define the dimensions of my cuboid, and I will use the same dimensions that I used to illustrate how set blocks works with my drawing. So the width will be 2. Sorry, that wasn't the original width. Let's go back. It was 9 by 3 by 12. So 9 by 3 by 12. That was those were the dimensions I used to illustrate how this works. I'll try others later, but for now it's a 9 by 3 by 12 cuboid that I want to build. Then I need to define the block type, and for now, feel free to go to that website we normally use and find a type that works for you. But for me, I'm gonna use cobblestone. And just because I will try other block types later, I'm gonna change this variable name from cobblestone to just block. Let's call it block type. All right, because I might change it later. So okay, so block type, and then what I'm going to do next is actually use the new function. So build the cuboid with set blocks. All right, so to use it, MC, remember that's the Minecraft object, set blocks, and you need 2 sets of coordinates. So the first one is the first corner, and that's just gonna be where I'm currently standing, so X, Y, and Z. Now the next set of coordinates is the opposite corner, and I'm gonna use the dimensions to get to that corner, to that opposite corner. So it will be x plus width minus 1, remember. The next is y plus height minus 1. And the last one is z plus length minus 1. And the final parameter is just the block type. Okay. Now I will pause here for a moment. I just want to mention that the only reason why is a plus here, plus here, plus here is because of, again, how I'm standing in my game. Okay, the only reason why it is like that is because of how I'm standing. I will recap. So I'm standing like this, right? So this is positive x, positive z, positive y, okay? And because I'm starting, say, at some point here, okay? And then to create my cuboid, I'm going like this, and like this, and like this, right? So this represents the cuboid right there. So I'm getting to that opposite point. So to get to that opposite point, I go in the positive x, I go in the positive y, I go in the positive z, and that's how I get to there, right? I hope you see it in 3D. So just because of how I'm positioned and how I'm defining my two points, my two sets of coordinates, is that I can use plus and plus and plus here. Now, there are other ways. If you were creating this differently, if you were, for example, considering that this is your starting point and that your ending point is somewhere actually around here, something like that. Okay, it doesn't look very nice because I'm not very good at 3D, but if you were going on the opposite side, so maybe, just maybe, you would have to minus on the x, right? Because you're going to the right instead of to the left. So you might have to minus on the x, but still plus to the y, still plus to the z, right? Because you're going the z towards this direction, the y towards this direction. So you might have to just subtract from the x. So again, I hope this makes sense. It's not always plus plus plus. It is plus 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 to me because of how I decided to position my player and define my coordinates each time I'm building the cuboid. But feel free to find your own way, and your own way might have to use different operators here, right? Here, here, and here. Okay, so that is what I wanted to say. So now, going back to my code, we're ready. This should work. So I'm going to return to the game, except that it's very dark right now, so I'm gonna drink that potion that makes me look in the dark. Okay, and then I will press F3 because I want to make sure I'm standing the right way. So you can see the coordinate system in the middle, and then let me make the game bigger because those letters are covering. Okay, so I just want to show you again, look at the colorful axis there. So red is X, it's pointing to the left, great. Blue is Z, pointing to the front, awesome. And then green is Y, pointing upward. Okay, again, X to the left, Y upward, and Z to the front. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my code. I'm gonna rearrange things a bit. Okay, back to my code, I will press F5. Oh, I need to save this first, of course. So I'm gonna save this as cuboid.py. Run it and then go back quickly here 3 seconds later. There you go. So look, I'm standing right at the first corner, and if I fly, that's the opposite corner right here. Okay, so let's go back to the first corner. I land and let's check the width first. So I said the width, I wanted it to be 9, so there's 1 block, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, I said the height I wanted to be 3, so 1, 2, and 3, and then the length I wanted 12, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have a 9 by 3 by 12 cuboid. Alright, so let's try one more just quickly. Let's change the dimensions here. So I want like some sort of tower. So I'm gonna make this 15, and I'm just gonna make this a 2 by 2, the width and the length, 2 by 2, and a height of 15. And let's see what this gives us. I'm gonna save this with Control S, F5 to run it. Quickly back to the code. And there you go. So it's a 2 by 2, and feel free to count, but I bet you there are 15 blocks in height. Okay, so there you go, some kind of tower. So I hope this gives you an idea of the sort of things you can build with this powerful function. And if you were to build that swimming pool we did before, that would be a 3 by 3 by 1, oh sorry, a 3 by 1 by 3 structure of water, right? 3 width, 1 height, 3 length. Okay, so this is how you use the setBlocks function, super powerful. In the next video, we're gonna practice by creating a very simple house, and from there, it will be up to you and your imagination to create beautiful things within Minecraft.